I never imagined my son's college graduation would turn into the day my marriage ended. The ceremony was beautiful. The sun shone over the University of Minneapolis, and families gathered with flowers, cameras, and wide smiles. My son, Nathan, had worked so hard for this day. As I watched him walk across the stage to receive his business degree, I felt proud beyond words. But the joy of that moment was short-lived. What should have been a day of celebration quickly became the day everything fell apart. My name is Anna. I've been married to Benjamin for 25 years. We built a life together in Minneapolis, raising our son, managing careers, and planning for the future. I work as a financial advisor, and Benjamin owns a small consulting firm. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. At least, I thought we were. That afternoon, after the ceremony, we gathered for a family toast. Everyone was smiling. Benjamin stood up with a champagne glass in his hand, and I expected a heartfelt speech for our son, but instead, he cleared his throat and said something I'll never forget. "I have something important to share," he began. He looked calm, but I could see the nerves in his eyes. He kept glancing at his phone, and next to him was his assistant, Rebecca, half his age and clinging to his arm. "I'm leaving," he said. "Rebecca and I are in love. We're starting a new life together. I've already moved our savings to support this next chapter." Silence filled the room. I could hear gasps. I saw Nathan's face go pale, confusion and hurt in his eyes. Our guests, friends, family, co-workers, looked around awkwardly, not knowing what to say or do. Rebecca smiled, clearly proud of the moment, but instead of breaking down, I felt strangely calm, because unlike them, I wasn't surprised. I had known for months. It started with little things. One day while reviewing our joint bank accounts, I noticed unusual expenses, hotel charges, expensive dinners, jewelry I'd never seen. At first, I thought it might be business-related, but the pattern became clear quickly, especially the weekly charges from the same downtown hotel every Wednesday night. I didn't confront him, not yet. I started gathering evidence instead. I tracked every dollar, took screenshots of every transfer, and quietly moved our savings to a separate account in my name. My suspicions were confirmed when my friend Laura, who works in HR at Benjamin's firm, called me. "Anna," she said hesitantly, "I thought you should know, Rebecca just filed paperwork to transfer to Benjamin's new office in Bermuda." That was when I knew, he wasn't just cheating, he was planning to run. But what Benjamin didn't know was that I had already spoken to my lawyer, Patricia. We'd prepared everything, a divorce petition, financial freeze orders, tax documents showing illegal transfers, and a detailed case of marital betrayal. So when Benjamin stood in front of our family and friends and announced his fresh start, I simply reached into my purse. He had no idea what was coming. Rebecca held up 2 first-class tickets to Bermuda like it was a prize on a game show. "We leave tonight," she said proudly. "We already picked out a beachfront house, with your savings." Benjamin looked at me, clearly expecting me to cry or scream. Instead, I took a slow sip of my champagne and said, "Interesting, and how exactly do you think you're funding this little escape?" He blinked. Rebecca frowned. I pulled out the thick manila envelope from my bag and handed it to him. "You should probably read this before you go." He opened the envelope and started flipping through the papers. Divorce papers, bank statements, a list of asset transfers, emails he thought were private, some of them outlining the entire plan with Rebecca. His face turned red. Rebecca's grip on his arm tightened. "You've been spying on me?" he said, outraged. "No," I said calmly, "I've been protecting myself, and our son. You see, Benjamin, you may be good at lying, but I'm better with numbers. You used Nathan's birthday as your email password, not exactly genius." Benjamin tried to speak, but Nathan stepped forward. He looked at his father like he was seeing a stranger. "You were going to leave Mom on my graduation day," he said quietly. "You were going to take everything we had and run away." Benjamin's mouth opened, then closed. He couldn't deny it. Rebecca leaned over his shoulder and gasped when she saw the account balances, 0. I had moved every penny out of our joint accounts weeks ago. "You can't do this," Benjamin snapped. "That's our money." "No," I said, looking him in the eye. "That was our money, until you decided to steal it." I pointed to another document. "That's a court order freezing your business accounts, and the IRS is very interested in how you've been hiding money offshore. Patricia made sure of that." Rebecca's face turned white. "Babe, tell me this isn't true." Benjamin didn't answer. He looked lost, the confidence was gone. You promised me a new life, she hissed at him. Oh, he promised me that too, I said softly, 25 years ago. Look how that turned out. Benjamin's younger brother Thomas stepped forward, shaking his head. You used Mom and Dad's lake house for your little meetings too, didn't you? He said bitterly. I'm telling them myself, they deserve to know. Nathan took a deep breath, his voice steady. I think it's time for both of you to leave, you've ruined enough already. Benjamin stood frozen, as if trying to decide whether to fight back or give in. Then he lowered his head and walked out, Rebecca close behind, her face pale with panic. Once they were gone, the tension slowly melted away. My friend Laura came up and hugged me. That was incredible, she whispered. I've never seen Benjamin speechless. Nathan wrapped his arm around me. Mom, he said with a grin, you've been planning this for months, haven't you? I smiled. Let's just say, I've learned the value of patience. Watching your father's plan fall apart was worth every second. Thomas raised his glass. To Anna, for giving us the best show of justice we've ever seen, and to Nathan, whose graduation we'll never forget. Everyone laughed, and the room turned warm again. I'd made my point, and I'd taken my power back. The rest of the celebration belonged to Nathan. 2 weeks later, I sat in my lawyer's office signing the final divorce settlement. Benjamin had agreed to everything. His career was over. The company had fired him after the investigation uncovered even more shady dealings. Rebecca had left him. Last I heard, she was back in Chicago, living with her parents. Nathan took me out to dinner that evening. You know, he said, you should consider working with my new company, do some financial consulting. I smiled, touched by his trust. Maybe, I said, but only if you promise to read the fine print on everything you sign. He laughed. Trust me, that's one lesson I won't forget. And as I looked across the table at my son, strong, smart, and full of promise, I realized that I had come out of this not just intact, but stronger than ever. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about destruction. It's about survival. It's about walking away with your head high, and never looking back. I always thought the day of my son's college graduation would be one of the happiest moments of my life. And for a while, it was. Nathan, my only child, stood proud and tall in his graduation robe, smiling as he walked across the stage to receive his degree. Our friends and family clapped, and I felt overwhelmed with pride. 22 years of raising him, supporting him through sleepless nights and stressful exams, it all led to that moment. I couldn't stop smiling. But what happened just a few hours later turned that joy into something else entirely. Something darker. Something I had quietly prepared for over a year. My name is Anna. I've been married to Benjamin for 25 years. We met in our 20s, built a life together in Minneapolis, raised our son, and supported each other's careers. At least, I thought we were supporting each other. I worked in finance, and Benjamin ran his own consulting company. We weren't rich, but we lived comfortably. But I began to notice things, small things, that didn't add up. Money disappearing, late-night meetings, business trips that didn't make sense, and then, the hotel charges, always on Wednesdays, always the same location. I knew in my gut what was happening, but I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I waited, I gathered proof, quietly, carefully. And then came Nathan's graduation day, the day Benjamin chose to reveal everything. After the ceremony, we all gathered at our home for a celebration. There were about 30 people, family, friends, and even some of Benjamin's colleagues. Everyone was enjoying drinks, taking pictures, and congratulating Nathan. I was still beaming with pride when Benjamin stood up to give a toast. But it wasn't the kind of toast I expected. He raised his glass, looked around the room, and said, I have something important to share. Rebecca and I are in love. We've decided to start a new life together. I've moved some of our savings to support our move to Bermuda. There was a stunned silence. All eyes turned toward Rebecca, his young assistant, who was standing beside him, smiling nervously and holding up 2 first-class plane tickets. You could have heard a pin drop. But I didn't cry, I didn't scream, because I already knew. I had known for over a year, and I had planned for this exact moment. I calmly took a sip of my champagne and said, How interesting, and exactly how do you plan to fund this new life? Benjamin blinked, Rebecca frowned. I walked over, reached into my purse, and pulled out a thick envelope filled with papers. You might want to take a look at these before packing your bags. He opened the envelope and began flipping through the documents. His face changed with every page, first confusion, then panic, then anger. Bank records, emails, transfer statements, evidence of every shady transaction, every hotel visit, every romantic dinner paid for with our joint money, and finally, a letter from his company's board of directors. His hands began to shake as he read it. He dropped the papers. They scattered across the floor like dry leaves in the wind. Rebecca scrambled to pick them up, her face bright red. "What is this?" she asked him in a whisper. Benjamin's face turned pale. He was holding the final page, a formal letter from his board announcing an internal investigation. The company had discovered his relationship with a subordinate. There were concerns about abuse of power and misuse of company funds. "You went to the board?" he asked me, his voice hoarse. "Actually, I didn't have to," I replied coolly. "Someone else had already reported you. The ethics committee's been watching you for months." Rebecca's voice trembled. "What does that mean for my job?" I placed my glass down slowly. "It means your position has been terminated, effective immediately." Benjamin tried to regain control. He puffed his chest and raised his voice. "This is nonsense. I built that company. They can't just push me out." "They can," I said, "and they already have. You're not the first executive who thought they could use their position to chase younger employees." Nathan stepped forward. He had taken off his graduation cap and was now holding it in his hands. "I can't believe you did this, Dad, on my graduation day." "Son, it's not that simple," Benjamin tried to explain, reaching out to touch Nathan's shoulder. "Sometimes, marriages just don't work out." Nathan pulled away. "Don't. You were going to take Mom's money and run off with your assistant. You weren't trying to end a marriage. You were trying to escape." Rebecca tried to salvage the moment. "Benjamin, we can still fix this. They can't prove anything." I laughed. "Really? The email thread you both sent back and forth about today's big reveal? The hotel charges, witnesses, you left a trail a mile long." Benjamin's brother, Thomas, walked forward with his jaw clenched. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked. Benjamin didn't speak. Rebecca answered, "We've been in love for 18 months, we shouldn't have to hide that." I raised an eyebrow. 18 months? That's how long I've been gathering everything, every receipt, every meeting, every email, it's all documented. Benjamin turned to me, "Desperate now, Anna, we can work something out, we can split everything 50-50ths, we can make this civil." I smiled. 50-50, of what? The money you tried to hide, the company that's about to fire you, the house that you signed over to me last month without reading the refinance papers? His eyes widened. "What?" I nodded. "You signed it, the house is mine now." Rebecca was panicking. "What about the property in Bermuda, the deposit?" "Frozen," I said, "along with every suspicious transaction you've made. The developers are being notified. You might be looking at fraud charges." Benjamin was furious. He opened his mouth to shout something cruel, but Nathan cut him off. "Don't even finish that sentence, Dad." Thomas looked disgusted. "You used the family's lake house for your secret getaways, didn't you? I'll tell Mom and Dad myself, they deserve to know." Nathan turned to them both. His voice was steady. "It's time for you to leave." And with that, Benjamin's world came crashing down. The guests watched silently as he and Rebecca slowly left the party, no longer proud or confident, just humiliated, broken. Once they were gone, I turned back to our guests with a smile. "Well," I said, "now that the drama's over, let's get back to celebrating Nathan." Laughter broke out. The mood shifted. People hugged me, clinked glasses, and congratulated Nathan all over again. Later, Thomas's wife whispered to me, "You timed everything perfectly, didn't you?" I smiled. Timing is everything, in finance, and in revenge. 2 weeks later, I sat in my lawyer Patricia's office, signing the divorce settlement papers. Benjamin had accepted everything, no fight left in him. More women had come forward from his office, and the investigation had confirmed even more than I knew. He was fired, his reputation ruined. Rebecca left him. Last I heard, she'd moved back in with her parents in Chicago. That evening, Nathan took me out to dinner. "You were amazing, Mom," he said. "Seriously, would you consider consulting for my new business? You'd be a great advisor." I smiled. "Maybe, as long as you read the fine print on everything you sign." He laughed. Trust me, I will, after everything that's happened, how could I not? And as we finished our meal, I felt lighter than I had in years. Sometimes, revenge isn't about shouting or fighting back. Sometimes, it's about staying quiet, staying smart, and letting everything fall into place at the right moment. That day, I didn't just take back control. I walked away with everything that mattered.